Briggs is our marketing analyst this week. The latest Sterling Beef Profit Tracker shows the average feedlot lost almost $58 a head on each cow it sent to market for the week ending August 31st. That's an improvement of just more than $1.50 from the previous week and more than $50 a head better from the same time a year ago. The heat that burned across the Midwest last week played tricks on the grain markets, with more volatility spreading into this week, as soybeans especially rode the roller coaster Tuesday and Wednesday. While corn hasn't been quite as turbulent, there's little chance it'll stay quiet until harvest moves in. When we talked with Mike Wednesday morning, I asked how he was feeling with space open in the feedlot, but a big crop possibly around the corner.
I feel awful and depressed, and I'm really negative. There you go. We've got the fewest number of cattle around here we've had since the 80s. There's virtually, people like to use the term margin. There's no margin in cattle. It's all negative. Everybody's waiting for the big come in the market. I don't know if it's going to happen. Personally, I'm really bearish. The information that I look at says supplies of market-ready cattle will be bigger in September and October than they were last year. Demand always falls off after Labor Day, always. And I don't think this is going to be any different. You've already seen a decline in export demand. So if you actually do have greater supplies of market-ready cattle in September and October than you had last year, and you have declining demand, you got a train wreck coming, and it really makes me nervous. As far as corn and things like that, I think we've got a nice corn harvest coming, and I think that's really going to help the feeding industry, because feeding $6, $7, and $8 corn, we've all found out the hard way that doesn't work.
That being said, the volatility probably isn't over in this corn market. The heat could come back next week, and then there's a threat of a frost. Do you just buy corn as you need it at this point?
Oh, I absolutely would. I absolutely would not extend my corn coverage. Some people say, well, the low's already in. I don't know. I think the corn crop has been primarily made. Yeah, you might lose a little test weight. Things won't be quite as good as you'd like, but the corn's still going to be there. There's been a little bit of harvesting of seed corn. They talk about huge yields in the seed corn, and I think the commercial corn will be the same way.
You're talking about supply. Do you feel the same way? Are you in that same boat that there is going to be more supply here as we get into fall?
I think there's going to be plenty of supply of corn. Now, on the roughage side of things, not so much. So if you're a cattle feeder, you probably need to cut some silage, because alfalfa hay has dropped, but not precipitously by any means, and I don't think it will.
Feeder cattle market has put in a few dollars here, as I was saying before. Is there any chance that might be a top, though?
I kind of wonder that. I don't know, I could be wrong. We ran the feeder cattle up pretty hard, but if you have another round of losses here in September and October, I gotta think that makes some people take their foot off the gas a little bit, but maybe not. Maybe with the cheaper corn, people are just gonna keep piling into it. I know that the smaller guys, the guys under 1,000 that the government doesn't track but once a year, these guys that have a cornfield in their backyard are not gonna be happy they can't sell it for $7, and they're gonna feed it. And so I think you're going to see a lot of little feed yards with a lot of cattle in them.
We talk about cheaper corn. Where does it need to be to make it, maybe not even profitable, but to get closer to a break even, do you feel?
It's got to get down 4 1/4 or less. And I don't know if it can do that. I think it will once harvest starts. I think you'll have an opportunity to do that, but I could be totally wrong.
When do you see, as far as the calendar goes, when the time frame might be that you start turning it around? Is there a time that maybe early 2014 you could see some positive margins?
I would like to think that we'll be able to buy some cattle this fall with the cheaper corn, and maybe feeder cattle kind of reining themselves in a little bit price-wise. There'll be some opportunity there to do some things. Otherwise, it may be after the first of the year when the next wave of feeder cattle come. It's going to have to be during a time when there's a lot of supply of feeder cattle, or relatively higher supply of feeder cattle, and that's usually October or January.
Not much interest to place cattle at this point?
No, not from our point, because the margins are too far negative. I don't see the come in the market that everybody else is apparently seeing. And there's no reason for a customer or an investor feeder to want to feed. So it's really difficult right now. It's probably, like I said, it's as difficult as I've seen it since the 80s.
What's the answer to the demand problem? I mean, is there one that you see?
It's all price. Beef has always been a premium price protein. It's always going to be a premium price protein, but it's way up there now. And it's to the point where people are just switching out of it. And that's one of the things I have the problem with the profitability in the feeder fat cattle. these prices that you need, where they need to be for us to be profitable, the consumer is not going to pay.
Yeah.
So there's where the head button comes, and I'm not sure. I think the consumer is going to switch out. So we're going to really struggle with making a margin in this industry, because we're not going to be able to price the live cattle high enough that they'll be profitable, because the consumer won't buy it.